The biggest lesson I learned from my work on fragile states is that we should not look to politics or economics as the key issue holding countries back. We always need to look at the nature of society and relationships in particular. From my side, given that I think relationships matter, we need to think first and foremost about what has changed in relationship. The key issue is that up until about 2 generations ago, we lived in place-based communities, neighborhoods. Go back to the beginning of settlement, go back through any country, any age. People could not travel far for the most part. I mean, clearly there was a class that did, but for the most people, they did not travel far, and they lived in a place-based community. The key issue was it was a mutually supportive system that everyone felt that they belonged, had meaning, and that they could, for the most part, contribute. If the extent of your world is a neighborhood or a place, you can actually make a real difference on real people, real problems, and you can play a leadership role in these local communities. What we have today is a completely different world. The world has moved from place-based community to networks, and it's much more dynamic. It provides, economy is more dynamic. People from all backgrounds and all places, if they have enough connection to the right networks, they can rise up, and it can be very meritocratic. But what we have is the downside of this is we have a lot of people that are not in the right networks or do not have access to the right networks, and we have a growing number of people who are in no networks. They're disconnected. Whereas a place-based world means that everyone is in a place, and that place is institutions. A network-based world means that we lose a lot of people, and that those people are often left behind and frustrated. And what we get is growing disconnection, growing deinstitutionalization of social life, and just mistrust and alienation. And I think what makes my focus in this book a little different than what I might have done in A Fragile State. In A Fragile State, we look at divisions between ethnic, religious, regional groups, and it works at the macro level. When I look at the United States, yes, I'm aware of the political tribes, and most people focus on that. But I focus on a different issue with relationships. I focus on growing disconnection and what I would call place-based dynamics that are affecting how people feel, behave, how their mindset towards the rest of the country might be shaped, and their access to opportunity and a lot of other things. In the United States, there is a 40-year gap in lifespan dependent upon where you live. Place matters tremendously to well-being. And so when I talk about this disconnection, alienation, it very much depends upon place. The main conclusion that I came up with is that neighborhoods have a huge impact on society and individual well-being. And many of our social ills sit downstream from neighborhoods. We all live in a place, and yet, at least in the United States, and I think other countries like the United States, we have built a placeless society in which we have thinner or non-existent relationships where we used to have thicker relationships, and we have fewer institutions in society supporting us. It's basically us, and there's some state or some things we're involved with. And so some of us might do very well out of that, but there's a lot of people being left behind. We should ensure that everyone lives in a flourishing neighborhood. It basically means rethinking our landscape so that neighborhoods matter. Those neighborhoods have lots of institutions, that neighborhoods have lots of opportunity for us to interact with each other. It's not just placemaking. There's a placemaking field. It's neighborhood making. My book looks at 5 organizations and draws conclusions from what they learn in terms of what they're doing on the front line to reverse these challenges. And then it draws cross-cutting conclusions for what each of us can do or what any organization to do. And the goal is always to be practical. The goal is always to come up with a set of ideas that people can use in real life, in real organizations to make real change.